Hey, it's me again. I got to thinking, when I did my Marine Corps history, I forgot about the whole middle section, 80 to 83. Yeah. Well, I ended up having to re-enlist because my time was running short. So I re-upped. Well, CMC came down and asked me if I wanted to go to Hawaii. I went home and talked to Pam about it. She was a little bit excited about going to Hawaii. So I went back and Queer Planner sent a message to CMC stating that, yeah, I'll accept orders. Well, the orders came down and I made it part of the orders that Marine Corps had to put me in base housing. I had to be in base housing, totally set up, 30 days before the Marine Corps would send me anywhere out of Hawaii. I looked at it this way. I'm in an F4 community. Here today, gone tomorrow. Here today, gone this afternoon. You go to work in the morning, you could end up 2,000 miles away by that evening because of an airplane breaking. Like I told you, I ended up going to Dallas, Texas. Yeah, I went to work that morning thinking I was going to be home that night, and I ended up coming home 2 days later. But anyways, I made that part of the part of my orders. So anyhow, things progressed, and Pam and I put down when we're going to move, 30 days leave. This was halfway through 1980. And got the car down in New York City. My brother came and picked me up. And we got to Hawaii. And upon getting to Hawaii, picked up the car, because the car was there. Also found out the furniture was there. Still had a couple days before I had to report in, because that's the way Pam and I planned it. So we toured Hawaii. We had a good time. We were living out in town in a little transient place. And we had the place for 2 weeks upon me checking in. So after seeing Hawaii for a couple days, I ended up getting dressed in uniform and reporting into work. Well, they assigned me to 235. I checked in at 235, and while I was checking in, you got to check in with the Sergeant Major. So I showed the Sergeant Major my orders, where it stated that I had to be in base housing, totally set up, at least 30 days before we go anywhere. Because when they assigned me to 235, I found out in 2 months they were going to Westpac for 6 months. In other words, another 6-month deployment, which to me is a bunch of bonkers, but whatever. Anyways, Sergeant Major looked at me and told me that, no, can't do it. And I said, okay, fine, I'll request mass. Well, that kind of upset the Sergeant Major, and I ended up going in front of the CO. CO read my orders, made a couple phone calls. I went to base housing, found out I was like number 28 to get on the base housing. But because of me putting that in the orders, that bumped me up to the very next house. Yeah, apparently I torqued off a few of the people that I ended up jumping ahead, but that's not my problem. That's their problem for not planning. You know, either or you. Well, I must have passed that one, because within 48 hours I just got done checking in, get a phone call from base housing. We got our house. We still had a week out in town, paid for by the orders people. But we decided to go ahead and move in. So we called, I can't even remember the place that had our furniture, had our boxes, because they were already sitting in Hawaii. Didn't have to wait for them. And we set up house. Well, I went to work, but, 8 or 10 hours a day I was home setting up house. So we were actually in the house about a month and a half before I went on my first 6-month deployment. Come back from the 6-month deployment, stayed there about a month, 7 weeks. We had to qualify some pilots for bombing runs, so we had to go to Yuma. And there was about 50 of us guys that ended up having to go to Yuma. Remember, like I said, same thing, Mag 31, same thing over there in Hawaii. If you can do 2 or 3 or 4 jobs in a squadron, you got orders to go. Well, I went to Yuma, came back, another short little time, and back to Japan for another 6 months. Came back from that 6-month deployment. Well, during that time, Mom and Dad came over a couple times. There was a Master Sergeant Pike. He was there when I got there. Well, he checked in about the same time I did. He became in charge of maintenance control. And him and I didn't see eye to eye at all. Well, they had me assigned to the flight line. And they found out that I do things by the book. Rules are made, you obey them, or they bite you in the butt. Yeah, we had a PFT. Everybody pencil whipped the dog out of it, except for flight line. We had a party, did a PFT, went back to the party. And it was on a Sunday, everybody's day off. And everybody passed the PFT. Like I said, at that time I was running. Had a couple people join me. And had fun. And had a ball. But they transferred me to the 2 room. We had a maintenance officer also that didn't care much for me. Apparently he wanted to flag and diss me. Put me in the 2 room, made me the Emerald Chief, because he liked the way that I follow the rules. Rules are made to be strict, and that's what I did. I kept the same OIC as I had in the flight line in the 2 room, which is also kind of unique, but it came from the maintenance officer. And I can't even think of that man's name, but I got a lot of respect for him, because he also believes like I do. Pass, fail, no middle. Well, anyways, we got that Emerald together. And for the first time in 235's history, they got an outstanding on Emerald. I bought Marine Corps bought a camera for me. Probably about 40 rows of film, because you got to take a picture of the Emerald gear, attach it to the inventory form, and we had a big notebook, 500 and some odd pieces of Emerald gear, and the Emerald had to be reported on every year. And like I said, it was the first time that 235 passed the Emerald inspection. And in squadrons you also got a thing called tool control. Well, 2 room controls the tool control. That camera was also used to take pictures of the toolboxes. And for a long time, 2s were paper fudged. Well, when old Staff Sergeant Taylor took over the 2-room, the paper fudging got flushed down the toilet. And we downed a couple airplanes for missing 2. Pissed off Top Pike, which made my day happy. Well, it came time for me to head back to Beaufort, because it was only a 3-year stink in Hawaii. So I received orders. I was going to leave in 3 months and go back to Beaufort. Well, Pam got island fever, so I started checking into that, and found out that I could send her and the kids home 40 days early. Yeah. Hey, fine. Pack up this thing, 40 days. When they're home, stuff will go to Beaufort, stuff will be waiting on me. My car, 74 Maverick, stayed in Hawaii. The trunk rusted out, Pam went to get in it one day and fell through the floorboard. Floorboard rusted out, there was no trunk. I sold the thing for $100, I think. But anyways, the 74 Maverick made it all the way through Hawaii, which was good. Well, came time. Pam and the kids got on the airplane. They came and packed up all my stuff. I took a couple of days off from work in order for them to pack up the house and ship that off. And I went to work after the couple of days off. I can't even think of his name now. Keith Stoddard, Captain Stoddard. He got promoted to major, and he joined me in 115 later on. At that time, he was Captain Stoddard. Well, anyways, he came down to the 2-room, and he looked at me, and he goes, Gene, it looks like you're going to be leaving here. And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, well, we're getting ready to go overseas, and I got to replace you. But I don't really know what to do with you. So what I'm thinking about doing, as soon as I get a replacement in here, is let you call in every morning, and when it comes time for you to leave, then you can leave. You know, I just want to get the squadron working together, and I can't really do that once we get over there. I want it solid here before we go. And I said, okay, no problem. So I went to the maintenance meeting. 2-room also, because of my job, you know, materiel. Well, it seemed like they were knowers for this overheat element. It goes on the door of the F4. And Gunny Carl, in charge of the electric shop, they were discussing it in maintenance control with Top Pike. I busted a gut laughing. And Carl looked at me and popped up and went, Gene, we need that part. And I said, well, go get it. It's right over there in supply. It's a consumable. It's a dime a dozen. Top Pike looked at me. Now, Top Pike and I have already had words overseas. You know, we've already had a couple heated discussions. And he don't like me from Adam. Well, Top Pike told me that according to supply, they're Norse. And I said, well, I hate to say this, but supply is full of crap. Well, he called me a wise ass and told me Prove yourself, you mother asshole. Whoa! You cursed at me? Top Pike, you're going to swallow those words. Carl, I'll see you in about 20 minutes. Well, I went to supply. Talked to my counterpart over there. And naturally, Carl gave me the part number for the overheat element. We went to where it was, quote, supposed to be. Sure enough, that drawer was empty. The kid looked up at me and he goes, "Sorry, Gene, we don't have any." And I went, whoa, wait a minute, this is a consumable. You know, a dime a dozen. When was the last stock of this crap come in here? So he got on the computer and found out it came in just 2 days ago. And I said, how many of them? 20. Who was supposed to stock it? Night shift. Who you got working night shift? Well, he went and pulled the cards on what they distributed to the drawers night shift the previous night, and we checked those drawers. Nah, wasn't any. So we went back and got 2 nights ago. All of a sudden we come up with 20 of them. They were misfiled. They were put in apparently the letter P and the letter B look alike. So if it's got a B, you can put it in P and it does the same purpose. Well, he asked me how many I wanted, and I said, well, I got one to shove up a master sergeant's asshole. I got one for the airplane and a spare one for Carl. So I need 3 of them. So he gives me 4. You know, he's supply, he can't count. So I get the 4 and go over there, and I stop at an electric shop. I give 3 of them to Carl. Carl goes, all I need is 1. And I went, hey, you're going overseas. You might need a couple spares. But I want this one. And you'll get it because I'm going to go and shove it up Top Pike's asshole. And Carl popped up and goes, I'm going to go with you. Okay, fine. So we walked across the hangar, walked into maintenance control. Top was talking to the major, Major Daniels. Another man that I really didn't care for. So anyhow, I cleared my throat. Top Pike recognized me, turned around. He goes, well, wise ass, did you learn your lesson? And I looked at him and I says, as soon as you apologize to me. And I raised my hand up with the element and put it on the desk. Well, Top started walking towards it, and I took the thing, put it back down by my side. And Top says, give me that. And I said, no, not until I get an apology. And it better be a heart-worthy, damn good one, Master Sergeant. Oh, you talk about throwing salt into the wound, insult. Well, the Major came over, Major Daniels. And he looked at me and he goes, Staff Sergeant Taylor, is that the element that electric shop needs? And I went, yes, sir. Why are you doing this? Simple. That man called me a motherfucking liar, Major, and had the audacity to insult me this morning concerning this item. And by the way, right now, the electric shop is installing one on the airplane, and they've got 2 more for spares. Because I came back here with 4 of them. But this one, you're not going to get it unless I get an apology. Major looked at the Master Sergeant and says, you owe Staff Sergeant Taylor an apology. Top Pike had to apologize to me. Had to. By order. Pissed him off. Well, after the apology, I looked at him. Apology not accepted. Slammed the part down on the table, turned around, and walked out. Well, about a half hour later, Captain Stoddard came over to the 2 room, looked at me, and he goes, "Remember when we were discussing about your time off?" And I said, "Yeah, I still got a couple of days before my 40 days. And he goes, No, I want you to leave now. Because you've done pissed off everybody over there in maintenance control. Start calling, give me a call tomorrow morning." And he gave me his phone number. "Starting tomorrow morning. And right now, you're secured." "Thank you, Captain." I went, got my stuff. I knew this Marine Corps lieutenant that got out, joined the Air Force. And he was stationed at Hickam. He lived 2 blocks in from Waikiki Beach. So I called him up. I've already made arrangements to stay with him. He had an extra room in his apartment, and his wife didn't mind me staying there for those 40 days. But now I got 42 days. So I called him up, and he started laughing. Well, come to find out, he knew Major Daniels, didn't like him. He knew Captain Stoddard, he liked him. And he never heard of Top Pike. But he says, "Yeah, come on over. Wife's home." "Okay, fine." So I grabbed my stuff and went over, and for 40 days, well, 42 days, I was waking up in the morning about 7:30. Made a phone call. And then I went down to Waikiki Beach. About the 3rd day there, I overheard a conversation from people behind me saying that it's boring. This is their 3rd time being here, and they're bored. I became a tour guide on Oahu. And they bought me dinner. I took them around the island. Of course, I didn't have transportation at that time because I already sold the car. And he rented a car. So I took him down to see the toilet bowl and the blowhole, and over to this place that's got a big cave that you can walk into. Took him out to the pineapple fields and told him that there's a glass bottom boat ride that is superb. Well, I got them on the right boat, and sure enough, they enjoyed themselves. They tried to give me some money, but I wouldn't take it. You know, you guys are paying for everything. That's payment for me. Yeah, I'm not losing nothing. So I became a tour guide, and they knew some people that were coming in a few days, so they telephoned them and had me meet them. So I did the same thing there. Well, that happened probably 4 times during that 40 days. So my 40 days was occupied being a tour guide. Well, I come back to Elmira, 1983, and that's when Doreen's birthday party. We all know what happened there. So, anyway, well, this is looking at about 25 minutes, so put this 25 minutes into that 1 hour and some odd thing that I did about my Marine Corps career. So, once again, it's like I said, when you got the world, when you got right there, you can do no wrong, especially in the Marine Corps when there's pass, fail, nothing in the middle. You get to say what you want, do what you want, and experience fun. And the old saying, rank has its privileges. Bullshit. If you know your job, you know your ins and outs, you know you can cross the line without worrying about getting your butt burned. Main issue, bottom line, cover your 6. And as long as your 6 is covered, you ain't got nothing to worry about. So let me get this thing going. And like I said, I'm glad I thought about this, because this makes the whole Marine Corps package. So, Major Captain Starter became Major Starter, and he was the maintenance officer in 115. He started. I just got this is a couple years later. My last deployment overseas in Japan. Told you about that joke with the DI. Well, this is what happened with Staff Sergeant Moss while we were overseas. I'm working materiel because Keith Starter liked the way I did materiel back in 235, so he made me the materiel chief of the squadron. Like I said, once you get to know, they use you. Well, anyways, I'm overseas in Iwakuni, and the squadron was going down to the Philippines. I didn't want to go. I tried to tell Mike Bogacic that, I can do a better job for the squadron staying here. Well, there was a master sergeant, first time overseas. He was the avionics chief. He was a real good friend of mine. So anyhow, we got together and we started laughing and talking about, well, let's see, if we can come up with a fantasy that I've never done, I'll go down to the Philippines. But if we can't come up with a fantasy, there's no reason for me to go down there. Well, Top came up with one. And we talked about it. I told him, well, you go out to Bach, and you can have that fantasy done for $10. Well, I was on my run. It was on a Saturday. I was doing the base run. It's about 13 and a half miles. I just got back to the barracks. No, I'm sorry. It was just a 5-mile run because it was during the week. I had to go to work the next morning. So it's about 6 o'clock at night. And who's sitting out on the steps? They put us in this barracks. 2-man room, 4 stories high. The days of the Quonset huts are gone. You lived in a hotel type thing. Every room had a TV. Every room had air conditioning. There was a movie that the special services would drop by. And during that time I was Antichrist. And, porno movies are not allowed in Japan. But I brought a couple real good porno movies because I found out that they got this movie thing with a VCR in the barracks. And I got to know the special services guys, so I told them one time to slip in this movie. Just to stir the pot, because I knew Moss and a couple other females were living in the same barracks. So they scheduled, I don't know, The Sound of Music, and we ended up watching Debbie Does Dallas. Well, the conversation the next day at work was quite interesting, because Moss was raising all kinds of hell because it's against Japanese law to watch porno. And who did the porno? Well, she automatically accused me of putting in the porno movie. I don't have a key to that room. And where would I get Debbie Does Dallas over here in Japan? You brought it with you. Well, get out of here. I did not bring it with me. I didn't. It was packed up in seat shop. Anyway, hey, I get back. This is a few days after that movie thing. I get back to the barracks and Moss is sitting outside. Well, the Navy Times came out that there were prostitutes and whores in the Philippines. And I went, what? Jeez, Moss. You shouldn't have a problem with that at all. You and Mrs. B. You're Mrs. and Mr. B. Like I said, the name caller. So, anyway, we talked about it, and she made the mistake and said she will not compete with a whore. So I did well. Up until now, I never considered you one. Well, she got pissed, red in the face, went into barracks. Next morning, I get to work. Mike Bogacic, Warrant Officer Bogacic, I knew him back when he was a PFC Lance Corporal, but he turned CWO. And he goes, get a cup of coffee and go in the back. Keep your mouth shut. What's going? Just get a cup of coffee and go in the back. So I got a cup of coffee and I went in the back. Well, who's back there? Top Crippin' Trippin'. The Penguin, the Bible, Chrome Dome. Geez, I can't even think of the names of the other jerks. And Moss. Mrs. B is back there. And they got the UCMJ opened up on Top's desk, and they're going through every article to see what they could nail me with because of what I did to her the previous night. So I'm sitting there. Well, Keith's daughter finally comes in his door, looks at me, looks at them, and goes, what is going on? All 9 people started talking. The major put up his hand and went, stop. So they all stopped. He looked and he goes, Moss, what is going on? Well, Moss told him. It took about 5 minutes for her to rattle out all of it, but she told him. He stood there and he looked at me and he goes, you got anything to add to this? I took a swig of coffee and I said, yes, sir. I think you ought to write her up for the Congressional Medal of Honor. It's the first time the redheads told the truth. Oh my God. The looks I got from everybody over there. Well, the major told them to rip up and throw away all the paperwork, get out of his thing, put the UCMJ away, go back to work. Gene, you sit there, I want to talk to you. So, after a couple minutes, they all left. The major looked at me and he goes, there's no way you can work today. And all those people are going to do is harass you. Take the day off. I'll let Mike know. Okay. I went out his door, went back to the barracks, changed clothes, and took the day off. Well, they did go down to the Philippines. Naturally, I didn't get picked on the next day. Everybody left me alone. Apparently, Keith's daughter talked to all of them and mellowed everything out. Well, Top came up with a fantasy that I never had. I told him to keep his mouth shut. So he did. Squadron went down. I stayed back. First time ever, I spent 6 months in Japan. Well, the advanced party comes back. Top, Moss, the Bible, and Chrome Dome. I get the word that they're over at the chow hall. So I get on my bicycle. And I go to the chow hall. I get to the chow hall. And I sit behind Top and Moss. And I welcome them back. Hey, welcome back to the real world. Well, Top turned around and he goes, Jane, we need to talk. And I says, let's do it. And he goes, I had your fantasy. Now you got to remember that this fantasy of mine went squadron wide. You know, even the little troops were putting ideas into their bosses' heads about my fantasy. Well, Top turned around, looked at me, and says, hey, I had your fantasy. And I looked at him, and I says, really? How much it cost you? $25. I just about choked. You spent $25 for that? Ha! Yeah, you stupid American. Moss turned around, looked at me, looked at Top, and said, what fantasy did he have? And Top just looked at her and went, 4 girls screwing the hell out of each other with dildos. Well, Moss turned around, looked at me, and just started chastising me for being a pervert. And I looked at her and I went, you're yelling at me, and he's the one that it cost him $25. And not only that, he left out the best part. She asked. Okay? Let me make this clear. She asked. What part did he leave out? Simple. Me beating my meat. And I started banging my leg. She turned beet red. Got up and started to walk out. Well, I started yelling for a messman. One of the messmen came out. That redhead that's leaving forgot her tray, because you're supposed to take care of your tray. Well, he went outside and got Moss, and Moss came back in, got the tray and took care of it, calling me every name in the book, and left. And in the meantime, the Bible and Chrome Dome and the Top just laughing, having a ball. So, anyway, that's what I mean about having fun and keeping it real. You know, there's nothing wrong with having fun as long as you stay in boundaries. You know, I didn't say nothing. I didn't do nothing that was wrong. She asked. Yeah, just like that thing about her ripping off that thing. She demonstrated. So, you know, sooner or later, she's got to learn. And I think she did. I think. Anyways, squadron came back. Everything was good to go. We finished up that and headed back to Buford. And that's when I picked up that thing about that Navy captain having that little lesbian thing. So this 40 minutes goes right in the middle of that hour and thing about my Marine Corps. So anyways, hope you guys liked this video. I'm shutting it off and gonna log it. So God bless.